The government said that next year they will reduce the incentive, and the year after they're going to reduce it also.
There's a saying in Canada, the government is the best car salesman, and after interviewing this dealer, I'm starting to think it's true. Today, I'm speaking with Jimmy Houle, CEO of Groupe Lallier, a 7-rooftop dealership group in Quebec. Don't forget to click subscribe so you never miss an episode. This episode is brought to you by LotLinks and Experian. Jimmy Houle on the CDG podcast. Jimmy, welcome.
Thanks, Yossi. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here to speak with you today.
Good to have you on from representing Lallier up in Canada. Dude, you know, you're the first Canadian dealer on the CDG podcast. How does it feel?
It's really nice. And to be honest, I've been listening to your podcast for, maybe a year now. And when I spoke with John and he told me, you're going to be the first one who speaks with Yossi, I was like, wow, it's really nice. And I couldn't even realize it. So super happy to be here.
I love it. I'm pumped to have you on. And truthfully, I don't know too much about the Canadian market other than the fact that, everyone and their mother used to bring or still brings, the Canadian trucks to Mannheim, Pennsylvania auction here in Lancaster, PA. So that was my big exposure to the Canadian market in general. It's seeing those pickup trucks every single week at Mannheim auction and wondering, can I buy these? Can I not buy these? Will they still be covered under a manufacturer's warranty? Will they not be? Will the banks finance them? I remember these thoughts going through my head, walking through those lanes.
Yeah, usually I think you can buy them because, all these trucks have been produced in the States. So that's why they're returning to their motherland.
Yeah. Over time, I learned that. So obviously a lot of money in that business. Actually, we'll talk about that. I'm curious to hear your take on that. Well, look, lots to discuss. I think in general, lots of people curious about how everything's functioning in the Canadian market. I will tell you that I have a big Canadian audience, which is just not something that I expected as I've been growing car dealership guy. But I've come to realize it because I have people that have reached out to me. Hey, can you share X, Y, and Z for the Canadian market? It may be industry info, insight, whatever it is. So I've kind of come to realize that, it's actually likely a bigger market than I even thought of initially. And then I discovered a bunch of different groups. Of course, there's your group, my buddy John from H. Gregg, and there's, plenty of other groups. But anyways, that was really how I became more exposed to it. Your story particularly is fascinating, and we'll get into that. Can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this business?
Yes. So I grew up not too far from Montreal. My dad is a farmer. I grew up on a farm with my two parents that are still together. My mom, she's the second generation in the business right now. So she was in the car business, and my dad has been a farmer. And, since I was little, I always knew I wanted to be in the car business. That wasn't even a question for me. So I was really fortunate to go to a really nice school. I was really good in mathematics, finance. So during my late years, people are starting to ask you, what do you want to do later? And, for me, it was clear. It was car sales, car dealerships. And my school was paying me to go to the Canadian contest for mathematics. They bring all the best kids from every school in mathematics, and you can win money. So I went, I think 2 years in a row. I won 1 year. So my school was paying me to go to the math test for all the best kids in the province of Quebec. And when I told them I wanted to sell cars, they told me, no, you can't do this. You have to go in finance. You have to do something in mathematics. You have to do something in this branch. And for me, it's never been a question. So when I told my mom that I wanted to go in the family business, she told me, you can do what you want, but you need to go to school first.
Wow.
So after high school, I went straight to college. There's a program in Canada in the Georgian College for automotive business, automotive marketing. So I did 3 years there. And after I finished my last year in Northwood University in West Palm Beach.
I was just going to say Northwood University of Canada. But there you go.
Yeah, they're affiliate actually. So I finished at Northwood. And after that, at 21 years old, I started in the business. I was started as a salesman.
Just a couple quick questions. Can you explain to anyone listening that's not familiar with Northwood? I can tell you, I sure as hell wasn't, as an independent dealer. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, it's it's a business school. You get your bachelor in business, but all the classes are oriented in the automotive industry. So you have an accounting class that's really for uh, dealership. You have a dealership management system class. You have a marketing class that's really oriented for the automotive industry. So it really puts you in the business as soon as you go to college. And all the person that are in this class, they're people like you. Maybe half of the class is dealer kids, how they call them, and the other half are people that want to work in the industry. So that's really nice, and you get to meet a lot of people. And still, my roommate from college that I met at he works for me now. He's one of the GM at my stores.
Can you fast forward us through your entrance, rise, and where you currently are in like your involvement in the car business? I know you run the entire Lallier group today, but can you just kind of run us through your entrance, rise, and how you got to today?
Yeah. So when I graduated in 2011, 2012, sorry, I went. We have dealerships in the Montreal area, and we have dealerships in the Ottawa area. So when I graduated from college, I wanted to be in the family business, but I didn't want to be like close to family because you're always the kid. You're the
You're
kid
the
that got
PhD,
every
yeah.
exactly. The papa has a
Papa has a
dealership, and
dealership.
grandmother has a dealership for me. But so I wanted to be far from the family, so I went to Ottawa to work in the family stores there. So I was 2 hours away from home, and I spent 2 years there. I worked as a salesman, and after I worked as a sales manager. And in 2014, we had a position in Montreal, in Laval, where my family was, and they told me, Jimmy, it's time maybe for you to come back a little bit closer and maybe learn a little bit more about the administration side of the business. So I moved back home after 2 years, and I did 2 years as a sales manager. And after I got my first store as a GM in 2016. And after that, I was for Kia for the. I worked at the Kia stores for a couple of years. So I saw the progression of Kia, which was crazy in Canada. I started in 2012 with Kia, and in 2016 sales were going really, really well. My brother joined me in 2017. He joined me as a sales rep. I promoted him as a used car manager a couple of years later, and we kind of grew together from there. And I always knew I wanted to take over the business since then. And with we just we were good for selling cars, and it's how it made happen.
This episode is brought to you by Lot Links. Dealers, when you look onto your lot, do you see risk? Every day, almost half of a dealer's inventory is at risk of aging. That's an average of a $1,500 hit on your gross profit per vehicle. But savvy dealers can avoid risk and get that money back. Introducing LotLinks Sentinel, the first and only AI inventory management solution completely focused on predicting and mitigating your carryover risk. With a decade of machine learning optimization behind it, LotLinks Sentinel allows dealers to launch separate strategies for each individual VIN and ensure they sell faster and more profitably. All this so you can turn cars 7 to 10 days sooner and protect your margins. Stop accepting unnecessary risk and start controlling your inventory. Get the LotLinks effect with LotLinks Sentinel. Visit lotlinks.com/sentinel to learn more or click the link in the show notes below. Give us a little lay of the land of your business today, like store count, top line revenue.
Yeah. So right now we have 7 stores, 4 Honda dealerships, and 3 Kia stores. Last year we sold 6,800 cars. This year we're targeting 7,000, one for one. So one new car for one used car. We all sell approximately 1,500 cars a year. We have revenues of
Wait,
approximately
sorry.
300 million.
You said 6,800 cars a year. That's between new and used, or is it
Yeah,
50? Yeah, so it's roughly 7,000 cars a year between new and used. Got it.
exactly. It's pretty much half and half.
Got it. And what were you saying? What's the revenue on that?
300 millions of revenue.
Got it. Okay. And so you have 7 franchises. Got it. The first thing that comes to mind is you have 4 Honda stores. How do you feel about? I see you smiling already. How do you feel about? I don't know if "feel" is the right word. How did you react to Honda's announcement about cutting dealer profit margins by as much as like 40%? Just like give me your entire mental cycle from the moment you heard that story till now.
when you hear 40%, it can be big, but it's not 40%, because it's only on the profit per car, and we sell a lot of accessories and a lot of F&I products, so it's not that much. And when you hear that, I know it can be really frustrating. It can seems big, but when you hear why Honda's doing it and their plans for the futures, like now you start to understand why. And right now in Canada, we are going to have a problem for all the manufacturers that don't have a certain amount of cars that are fully EVs by 2026. And Honda has been a little bit late to the party with the EV cars. So what this means? So Honda decided to shrink down the volume a little bit for Canada for a couple of years to not have the big penalties. But in order to do that and invest much more in EV, they reduced a little bit our margins. You know, I'd rather not have to, but I think for the long game, it's better.
You seem pretty optimistic, which honestly I'm surprised. One could make the case that they shouldn't, that like they can make these investments, but it can come at the expense of their margin. Doesn't have to come at the expense of your margin. I could also make the claim that it actually diminishes brand value because the franchise is, less profitable. Do you feel it's justified that, they came out with this statement coming at the dealer's margin? And I understand it's for a future investment. I get that. And I also don't have any horse in this race. I'm completely like down the middle. I'm a bystander here. But like, do you feel like it's justified that they're coming after your pocket for this?
If we only look at the short term, it's not the best proposition that we could have get. But I'm here for the long game, and Honda has always been a top manufacturer since the last 40, 50 years that they've been in Canada and America. So I think on the long game, it's the play. They decided to make that play so they can maybe come back stronger in the next years. And they decided to build a $15 billion plant in Canada and that they're starting to build next year. So they're going to give us a lot of cars to sell, a lot of nice EVs, a lot of hybrids. So like I said, it's 2, 3, maybe okay years on a 30-year careers. I don't think I will remember in 30 years.
I like the attitude. How's Honda doing in your markets in Canada right now? Just like generally speaking, how are sales, inventory?
For us, inventory has been low right now. We have approximately zero point 0.5 month of supply in my stores. I wish we had a little bit more.
So like 15-day supply?
Yeah,
Wow.
as we speak. Yeah, yeah. I have a lot of cars coming in June though, so it's going to balance out a little bit. And sales are, since we don't have a lot of inventory, we sell what we have. If we would have more cars, we would sell more, especially Civics, base model, Civics LX, EX. These are the cars that the Canada has always been really fan of. We don't have a lot of, affordability. I see what you're doing.
Affordability. That's it. Are you experiencing similar challenges as the US? Like negative equity, affordability, crunch. Are you experiencing similar? Also, like, are you experiencing it more or less? Like, how do you compare it?
I think less on the Honda side, affordability, Honda cars have always been more expensive than the competition here in Canada. So we're still more expensive. I think the rest of the manufacturers are more and more expensive. So they're maybe joining Honda a little bit. Honda is a little bit more expensive than it used to be. But on the car, on the trade-in, they worth so much that people are finishing their lease and they have 5, 6 grand of positive equity. So most of the people, they take this amount of money and they put it on their next lease so they can have a lower payment.
So what are your biggest challenges right now? Like, if you have to pinpoint top challenge or top two, what is it for you up in your market? I'm trying to actually compare. I'm curious to see like, you know, the the similarities and differences, cross border.
On my side, the biggest opportunity and the biggest challenge I have right now is to find good used car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, since we are, maxed in our allocation of new car, we're always trying to buy a used car. I have, a couple of buyers on the road. They're looking at the auction right now. and it's always important to have at least 1.5 months of inventory. That's our goal right now. We sit on 500 cars right now, and we sell approximately 350 used a month. So I'm trying to get this number a little bit higher so we can sell more in the upcoming months, because summer has always been a really good time for us. And on the new car side, on the Kia in the Kia stores, the main challenge is having EVs, because EVs are crazy right now in the province of Quebec. We have $12,000 cashbacks from government. So every person
Wait,
right now
what do you mean they're crazy? Like they're selling like crazy?
yeah, all the EV cars that are under 65,000 MSRP, you get $12,000 discount from government.
Wow, it's more than the U.S. Well, Canadian dollar, Canadian dollar.
Canadian dollar, exactly. So all the EVs that are in this price range, people are really want to buy them right now, because the government said that next year they will reduce the incentive, and the year after they're going to reduce it also. So it's a clock ticking. So people really want to buy their car before December 31st. And Kia, we have a couple of EVs. We have more incoming. So people are trying to put their end on the EV6, EV9, Nero EV the quickest they can.
Are EVs your best sellers right now because of this tax subsidy?
In the Kia side, definitely. We sell more than 50% of EVs right now every month.
Whew. That's like that's like night and day with the US right now. Not to say that all EVs aren't selling. It's just that that's absolutely not the case on the US side. I mean, the sales are cooling quicker than your average vehicle.
Yes, but don't get me wrong. All the cars that are too expensive to get the incentive from government, they're not selling.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So the best salesman is the government.
Yeah. Oh, what a line. The best salesman is the government. I'm sure that the EVs above 65K are not selling, like you said, but what about non-EVs above 65K? Like how's the and I'm also cognizant that you run pretty mainstream brands like Honda, Kia, you're not a Porsche store, but how are the cars, above those price points in generally speaking, not just EVs? How are they doing for you?
In my side, I don't have a lot of cars over $65,000 since I sell Honda and Kia. But when I look at a dealership, there's a Mercedes dealership not too far from here that I run by every day, and he has a lot of cars in stock right now that I haven't seen that much cars in the Mercedes stores for maybe 2-3 years now. So I know, like, high end dealerships are not having the best year. I think Porsche is different though, because someone who wants to buy a 911, he's gonna buy a 911.
100%. How much better are the margins when you send them from Canada to the US? Like how much more on average are you really making per car?
It always depends of the exchange rate. I'm not there's way bigger exporter than I am. I do maybe 15-20 cars a month when the exchange rate is good. So I'm usually trying to make between 1,500 and 2,500 per unit when I send them to the auction in the States. But like 1,500, it's what it left. I paid the transporter, I paid the Mannheim fee, I paid everything.
So you roughly 15 to 2,500. And then what are you really banking on when you send the cars to the US? Are you banking on the exchange rate arbitrage, or are you banking on that plus actually just making more money on the actual car?
No, it's always the exchange rate.
So you're saying there isn't a benefit, like the market speaks, it can be in the Canada, US, it doesn't matter. There isn't actually a benefit to that specific car going to that market. It's more so the exchange rate.
Exactly, because I remember when I think it was in 2008, 2010, uh, the rate was the same. $1 for $1 Canadian, and Canadian dealers, we were buying cars from the States. It was the opposite.
Are you seeing any US entrants in your market?
I don't know if there's a group of stores that bought a group of American dealership that bought stores here. I don't know. I don't think so. I know, H. Greg is getting really, really big in the US. They're big in Canada too. I think Auto Canada, they're starting to buy dealerships in the States, but I don't know if some of the major group are starting to buy dealerships in Canada.
This episode is brought to you by Experian Automotive. Experian Automotive is one of the most trusted sources of data and insights in the automobile industry and are a one-stop shop. That's because Experian maintains massive databases, from credit profiles to vehicle history data and millions of consumer data points. Imagine the potential of Experian data insights to drive your marketing strategies. Dealers can use automotive, lifestyle, and predictive data to find in-market car shoppers faster and at a lower cost. By leveraging targeted audiences, dealers can communicate with car shoppers based on make, model, off-lease, off-loan, in equity, fuel type, or vehicle servicing needs. All of this allows dealers to communicate with the right car shopper with the right message at the right time. They can increase their success rates, and consumers are happy because they receive timely, relevant communication. You can learn more about the Experian marketing engine by clicking the link in the show notes below. Talk to me about the presence in your markets of the online players. Like in the US, of course, there was the rise of Carvana. I competed in that space, or various other players. I know Canada has its own set of players. Do they provide any meaningful, competition in the market? Or is it sort of an afterthought, like the online only players? Like, how powerful are they in your market?
They're not. They're not here.
Really? You're like, they're not. You looked at me like I fell off the moon.
No, it's because I know Carvana and is really big in the States, but here in Quebec we have a law that if, let's say, you sell a product 100% online and you deliver it to someone's door, like it's door-to-door sales, and when you do door-to-door sales, you have a 30-day back, that you have 30 days policy that you can return the product and get 100% refund.
That's mandated by the government.
Yeah, exactly. So
Ooh.
people, they don't like, so everyone who's trying to sell car 100% online, someone can buy the cars, drive it for 29 days, and after 29 days just give the car back and, hey, I want my money back. So I know people are not entering to a 100% online because of that. Uh, it's probably going to change in the next years because online sales are coming. A lot of people are considering buying online, but most of the dealers, we don't offer the A to Z solution. We have customers, we have a lot of customers starting the process online, but they take the possession. They come pick up the car in the dealership. We do everything over the phone, but they come here to sign the papers and they leave the dealership with their new car. We don't deliver them the cars.
Oh, I can understand why. So I want to transition. Given this is a great tangent, I want to transition to just how do you run your stores, right? Like, at a high level, are there any core differences? I mean, the 30-day return, if you deliver, that's a pretty core difference. Are there any other core differences in the way you operate your stores versus how, a US dealer would operate?
Not really. In 2009, I went to visit Paragon Honda. I went with one of my GM. He said,
Oh, look at
"Who's the
that,
biggest
Brian.
Honda dealer that we can go and visit?" And and so we drove from Montreal to Brooklyn. So I parked my car right in front of the store, get in the store, say, "Hey, I'm a Honda dealer in Montreal. I want to see how you guys are doing it. You're selling in a month what I do in a year." So the general sales manager, he said, "Hey, nice meeting you." He said, "How you know us? How you come here?" So, "Oh, I know. I saw a documentary on Mr. Benstock, and I'm a Honda dealership, and I want to do as good as you in my market." So he said, "Oh, Mr. Benstock is here today. He's gonna be happy to see you." So Mr. Benstock, he came to meet us. He spoke with us for maybe 15, 20 minutes, explained how he's doing it in his market. And we spent half of the day with his general sales manager to visit all the departments of his store, his business development center. We went to his service center, and business is pretty much the same. The only difference is volume.
So you're saying just the volume here in the US is just much greater.
There's 8 million people living in the province of Quebec. There's 25 million in the New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's 1,000 dealers in the area of New York City. There's 65 dealers in the province of Quebec. So the biggest dealer here
Six,
is
65 what dealers, though? What type of dealers?
Honda dealers
Whoa.
in the
65
province.
franchise dealers for
Yeah,
8 million
in the
people?
province of Quebec. Yeah,
What's going on? Like, how does that get to, one of my questions I was going to ask you is about open points, but how did you get to, how did we get to 65 Honda dealers? What is Honda doing?
They want to, and it's not only Honda, it's all the manufacturers. We all have the same amount of manufacturers as Honda, between 60 and 70 for all manufacturers. I know more stores they have, more chances they have of selling more cars. That's probably their philosophy. There's not been a lot of open points in the past years. I don't recall I haven't seen an open point for Honda or Kia dealers for the past maybe 5, 6 years. So we're pretty saturated in this market.
That's an interesting philosophy because you'd think that fewer dealers, like consolidating with fewer dealers, but the best dealers would actually provide the best possible experience for the customer, not more dealers. I mean, I could see the other side as well, right? Like just more competition, so you have to be even better. But I feel like if I'm a manufacturer, I'd want my brand in the hands of fewer, better operators. So that actually that surprises me to hear that. So I can only imagine how much that impedes your volume growth, at least on the new side, because you're just not as exclusive in your market.
Exactly. But manufacturers, they sell you two things: parts and cars. So having more open points, having more dealerships, I think you can maybe service more cars, buy more parts from Honda. So I think they're winning on this side.
Are you facing any major headwinds in the Canadian auto market?
I think we are in the worst of what we could have been, because interest rates are really really high right now. They're talking at lowering them in the next month. So I think the worst has, you know we're maybe in the worst, or it was maybe in the beginning of the year. I don't see how it can be worse than what we do now. We see a lot of small dealers having trouble, people in the not in the metro area but in more countryside. It's not easy as it used to be, and COVID years, they were not real years. Everyone was making so much money. You could sell cars, blindfolded. So I think right now it's a big of a reality check.
When you say the smaller dealers are having trouble, why do you think they're having trouble?
Let's say the dealer used to sell 200 cars a year, 300 new cars a year. You build nice facility. So you pay a lot of money for your facility. You build a facility to be able to sell that much cars. You hire a lot of people to sell you these cars, and within a couple of years, your sales go from 300 to 150. So you still have the same overhead, but you have less car to sell. So you need to find new way to compensate for that. Used car buyers, they're still there, but used car is really really competitive right now. Margins are not as high as they used to. We Margins are under 3 grand a car, front and back, for used car right now.
Okay, and what were they for you a year ago? Like, I don't want to go peak COVID when things were like 5 grand, 6 grand, but like,
Last year, the same period, they were 1,000 higher per car.
and what's driving the decline in your market? Is it the car, or is it the warrant, the back end products?
It's the main issue I see right now is last year and the years before there were not enough cars on the market, and now the market is being flooded by the manufacturers on the new car side. So people are lowering their price of the new cars to be able to sell them. It's the first time in years that we see dealerships announcing 25% discount on new cars. So if the new car price drop, the used car is going to drop. So, and it's a circle that's always going and going and going. So now the prices of the used cars are going so low. People, they want to get rid of their inventory because they're paying so much interest on their floor plan. So what they do, they prefer to, sell the car the quickest possible, and they keep the lowest margin and they try to make money on the back end.
Hmm. How's it been for you managing? I mean, you mentioned you have 15-day supply, so I would have to think that you've done pretty well. But how's it been managing inventory for you?
For new cars, it's we always try to sell what's coming in. That's our main target right now. And for the used car, we have approximately 50-day supplies. So for the used cars, what we try to do is get to market as soon as possible, price aggressively, and once let's say you don't have any action on the car for the first 65, 75 days, we're just trying to get rid of the cars as soon as possible. Maybe through auction, maybe we send them to other dealers. We have the chance to be a group, so maybe sometimes a car doesn't sell here, I'm going to sell it, send it to one of my stores and maybe 30 minutes away from here, and it's going to sell there.
Yeah. I want to ask you a couple in the weeds questions, right? Like, how do you operate your stores? Meaning, do you have a managing partner at each store? Do you have like co-managing partners? Do you have GMs? How do you run your stores?
So right now, we have 7 stores. We have one GM that's a partner. He's been with us for 30 years, I think, this year. So he's a managing. He owns a percentage of the store, and he's the GM at this place. I'm the GM at one of the stores, so I operate as a GM and as the CEO of the group. My brother is a GM of one of the store too, and he's the co-owner with the family also. And to all the other stores, I have a GM that's there too, that's running the stores. They, they could become managing partner in the future. It's something that we often do. So, but we want to get the boys a couple of years behind the desk, and if they continue to have their good years as they do it, we're not close to sell them shares of the business. It's something a lot of dealerships are doing this practice just to make sure your good guys stay with you for a long time.
Yeah, retain that talent, definitely a good move. Just back to cultural differences and or like regulations, what other nuances separate the Canadian market from the US market?
I can't tell from the Canadian market, but let's say more for the Quebec market where my stores are located. We have a mandatory law that people need to have winter tires on their cars from December 1st to April 1st. So that's a really good thing for dealership because your customer get to come back twice a year to do their tire change. So what we try to do usually is we try to sell them the winter tires when we sell them the car, and we try to attach them so we can give them free storage for the summer and winter tires, so they need to come back to see you and install the tires. So
Mm,
having your customers coming back to your store twice a year, it's really nice. It's like I said, it's another government help we have right now. So
that's a pretty pro business move, especially you said you store the tires for them. I don't want to take 4 dirty tires in my car to replace them. So you store them for me. I'm definitely going to be back.
exactly, that's one of the strategies we have to have a good retention at our service department. We try to get on let's say on 5 years, we're looking at maybe 45% service retention after 5 years.
Hmm. So 45% of your service customers continue coming back to your store after 5 years.
Yes, how we calculate it is, let's say you sell 1,000 car a year. Year zero, you sell 1,000 car. How many of these customers still coming back to your store 5 years later? So we're trying to go at 45%.
But I'm saying that's what you're at, right? That is the number you're at.
That's the number we're at, and that's the number our 20 groups are saying we should get. Right now, we're at 47%. So pretty happy with this number.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll tell you is that you have a ton of competition. So, I can't like I've obviously heard of a lot higher in the US with some stores, and there's also some stores that are worse and lower. But given your amount of competition, and if your 20 group is, putting out that bogey of 45%, seems like you're doing something right.
Yeah, exactly. And we're trying to, it's if you have your customers coming back to your store 2 times a year, after 2 3 years, you're trying to sell them a new car, put them in behind new wheels. So it's really helping us to have the retention even on the sell side.
What about other in-store processes? You mentioned you're struggling with like acquiring used cars. Are you leveraging auctions primarily? Are you, buying off the street, service drive? How are you doing like used car acquisition in this market?
We have person looking at auction every day. So auction are not really the best car to buy, but it's the easiest way to buy some. So we're having people looking at them. We place a lot of bids to buy one or two cars every day because people are putting their proxies so much higher these days.
I have to imagine you're buying from Open Lane. They made the acquisition of Mannheim, Canada.
Yeah, so we go to Open Lane. There's other auctions in the area here that we use. There's Trade Rev. I don't know if it's in the US too.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Trade Rev.
So we try to be on every platform. We are also on Facebook Marketplace. I have people looking at Marketplace every day, refreshing their pages every 5 minutes to see if a new car is coming in. I think this is the best place that we can buy cars right now. It's brand new cars on the market. So I'm probably buying between 15 and 25 cars a month only from Marketplace, another 15 to 25 from the auctions, and maybe 50 from wholesalers. We have a big network of people on the road buying cars from all the stores. And I'm buying a lot of used cars from Audi stores not too far from here. He's only keeping Audis in stock, so he's selling me all this
Is it
Toyota.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So another question I had for you was, you mentioned sending a bunch of cars to auction, right? What's your philosophy, right? Like, are these trade-ins? Why aren't you retailing them? Do you just not have the market for these types of cars to, effectively retail them? Like, how do you think about that?
There's two type of cars that we're sending to auction. The first one are all the cars that say that you wouldn't sell to your sister. If the car is not made for someone I could refer this car to, for me it's really easy. Send it to the auction. I don't want any trouble with the customers coming back in 2-3 months saying, "Hey, you sold me a lemon." And the other cars is high expensive cars. We're trying to sell, maybe expensive cars one every 2 months, 2-3 months. But it's easier for us to just get back the money and buy Civics, buy Kia Fortes with the same amount of money.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like that's really your market. So tell me, like, what's on your mind as you think about, the future of your group, growth, the market? What gets you excited?
For me, what's really getting me excited right now is interest rate coming down. I think we're going to have a good year next year if the interest rates are coming down. Economist says that the interest rate of Canada is probably going down to 1% lower from in the next 5-6 months. So right now we are at 5%, and the predictions are the rate's going to be at 4% by the end of the year. So just for us, if 1% drop, it's going to be a lot easier for us to carry inventory, and I think customers are going to be really more inclined to change their cars, because right now we're renewing customers that were paying 0%, 2% interest rate on lease, and right now we're renewing them at 7-8%. So if we can get a couple of percentage back, it's gonna be easier a little bit for us to sell cars. I'm really excited also to see what are the next models coming in the next years. Like I told you, Honda's has big plans for the next years. They're bringing one EV car a year for the next 5 years. So for me, it's going to be really nice to see what's coming into the stores and what I can offer my customers. So I think it's what's going to be the plan for the next years. I think as a lot of new players are trying to get in the game right now, and I don't think that it's going to be easy for them to stay in new markets. I see VinFast, they opened 5 stores in a couple of months here in the Montreal area and in the Quebec area, and I don't see them selling a lot of cars. So I'm really curious what's going to happen with them. And there's a lot of manufacturers that plan to come here. We had the Lucid Motors, Imperial Motors that were planning to come to Canada, and I haven't seen a car from them yet. So
Are you looking to make more acquisitions? Are you looking to grow with more stores? Like, what's your thoughts? And also, and if that is the case, what type of brands are you looking at?
right now, it's not a plan. Me and my brothers, we got into years ago. So we bought back our uncle who was in the business for a long time. So it was a big chunk at one time. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to integrate vertically a lot of businesses. So this is my goal for the next 2-3 years. I opened two last year. We opened a rust proof business. I just opened another one in April. So we're rust proofing cars. So this
Wow,
has been good.
another dealer going into, different or alternative businesses. This is, I'm telling you, like every dealer I speak with nowadays is like more than ever, at least in my world, people are looking at alternative business. And why'd you get into rust proofing?
Just in one store, we were selling 1,000 rust proof protection every year that we were subcontracting to the guy just across the street. So one day I told my brother because I wanted to open parts stores. That was my first idea. I wanted to because we buy over I think it's over 2 millions non OEM parts a year for our body shops. So I wanted to open just a parts store. So I was looking online to buy a parts store, see if there's one for sale, if there were franchise opening. And I found a franchise of Rustproof. So I tell my brother, I said, you know what? We do so much Rustproof every year. We should do them by ourselves. So I called the guy for the Rustproof business. He sent me and my brothers to go visit one of his franchisee. And we had so much fun that day because we sell cars. I never did a rust proof protection myself. So the guy he told me, okay, bring your truck inside. I'm going to shoot your car. You're going to see we do the best rust proof protection. And we got into the rust proof business like this. Last year, we made only with this location, we did over 1,000 rust proof. That's warranted for 10 years. So customers need to come back one every year.
I was gonna say, what's the economics on that? Like if you do 1,000 rust proof, how much do you charge? What's your margins?
So we charge 149 per car, and 159 for truck. So it's not big money, but it gets your customers to come back to your stores every year for 10 years. So, and what's nice too is we put the rust-proof business in one of the Kia store. So people are calling us. So hey, do you do Mazda? Do you do pickup trucks? Do you do this brand? So we do it all brands for rust-proof. So what I prefer about this business, what I like the most is sometimes I go to the store and I see someone coming in the service drive with a 2024 Mazda 3 doing the rust-proof business in the Kia store. And he sits in the service lounge with all my customers and he's looking at the Kia cars in the showrooms while he's doing that. So for me, that was the main goal. So I have 1,000 customers that don't drive Kias, that don't drive Lalliers, that are coming to my stores to do the rust proof every year.
That is very smart.
So for us, that was the main goal with the rust proof. And we did 1,000 the first year. I think we're gonna have a 80% renewal. So we're gonna do 800 of these this year plus 1,000 new. So in a couple of years, we're planning to do 5,000-6,000 a year.
I'm blown away. I mean, I've never done rust proofing. I mean, it's not, not something we do in this market. But the fact that you do it and you get people in your doors, I'd be curious to know what percentage of those people you actually convert to, other service work, a new car.
I don't have the numbers for conversion right now. It's not something that we track right now, but I wanted to track definitely. I know we did upsells for service department, that's for sure, because the service advisor is going to see the cars. We change wipers. We offers also a wash at the same time because we do aesthetic too. So I know we converted a little bit of customers, but in the long game, I really want to change a car for someone who's coming for rust proof for his car and he leaves with a brand new car. That's something I can imagine doing in the next year. That'd be really, really good.
Yeah. Speaking of ancillary products, your top products that you sell with cars, is it similar to US, like a VSC, a vehicle service contract, and gap insurance, or anything different there?
On the accessory side, it's winter tires. That's for sure. We sell 75% of our deals have winter tires in it. So 2 sets of tires in every car.
Does that get rolled? Does that get rolled into the loan, or is that paid
Yeah.
for separately? How does that work? It
Yeah.
gets rolled to the loan.
Yeah. All in the. And on the back end, we sell. There's a product we sell here. It's like a little bit about gap insurance. So it's a similar product. We try to have 40% penetration and 40% penetration in extended warranty too.
Okay, so it's pretty similar to US.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk to you about something because I listened to the podcast, the recent one you posted, and you were saying that you cannot imagine not delivering a car the same day the customer purchased it. Here, it never happened the same day. It's always 2 or 3 days later. So it's always a 2 time visit for every time customer buy a car.
Well, I'm not shocked anymore since I heard it happening in Massachusetts. It seems like the more north you go, the slower people are to pick up their cars. But explain to me why is that happening? Why do you guys sell the car and not deliver it for 2-3 days?
I think it's a culture thing because I'm coming back to my visit to Paragon. He told me that his goal was to get a customer in and out with a new car in 2 hours. I was like, 2 hours for me. If I do it in 2 days, that's really really good. And they prep their cars right before the customer comes in. For us, the cars are not ready before the car comes in. So when we show a customer the car is still wrapped with all the plastic. The car is, it's not ready. PDI is almost never done before the customer buys it. So after we order the parts, because we don't, maybe the difference, we don't carry as much as of parts as the bigger dealer in the US. So we order the parts the next day. We receive them the day after. We prepare the car 2 days after, and the customer come pick it up 2-3 days. So I think that's a culture thing.
Wait, but you said unwrap, but is that also for used? People buy a used car and pick it up 3 days later?
Yeah, all the time.
Dude, you guys are unique, man. And that's putting it nicely. Because I mean, people here are so impulsive. It's like I buy that thing, I want it now. I mean, to wait 3 days, man, that's a new one for me.
Yeah, and we probably have more cancellation though. We have approximately 20% cancellation.
Oh, holy, that's a lot, dude. That's a ton.
Yeah, we have months with 40% cancellation though.
That's incredibly like that's crazy. So there's a lot of buyer's remorse.
A lot, and you get home, you talk to your neighbor, you talk to your uncle, and they told you they got the better deal at this store. They told you, oh,
Oh my god,
you shouldn't have
I'm
bought this
telling you,
car. You
man.
should have. This is something I hear every day. So we have to sell the car 2 times.
Wow, I can only imagine all the double work.
Yeah, salesmen, they merit, they gain their commission. Sometimes you have to sell the car 2 3 times, so their commission is well received.
All right, Jimmy, this was awesome. I think we covered lots of topics. Any parting thoughts before we wrap up?
Honestly, it was really fun talking to you. Thanks a lot for having me.
What's your favorite episode of the podcast? I'm just curious. Or do you have a favorite even? I should ask
The
that.
first one I really liked was the one you did with Brett Morgan.
Yep, that was a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one. I really liked this episode. The one with Brian Benstock was, it was really, really, really good too. These were my two favorite, and the other one I really like is I think it's Daniel Krennic's Time Auto Group, the guy with the Tesla stocks.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
This
really liked
guy's
it.
this guy's crazy. He's in a good way. Like he's a
Yeah,
funny
yeah.
guy.
It was it was really nice episode. Guy started from nothing and built this all by himself. It was really good.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. And Daniel, if you're listening to this, text me when you hear this. He texted me one day, and we actually need to do this. But he's like, "Hey," he basically like made an ask of me. He asked me to to join him on some meeting or something. But he was what I like about Daniel is he's a dealer, but he's extremely transparent, or at least that's the vibe I got. So he pretty much told me, he's like, "Hey, would you like to attend this with me?" And he was like very honest about why. It wasn't like, "Hey, I come with me, it'll be cool." He was like, "Hey, like I need you for this. This will help me out." And like I appreciate candor like that. In our business, it's you have the fortunate thing is you do have a lot of that. People are real. In other industries, in many cases, it's not like that. A lot of people are very, timid, like, oh, soft spoken, or not, like, they may be scared to say something to your face, but our industry is, has a very blunt nature to it, which is a great thing in my opinion. So anyways, that's my story for what it's worth. Jimmy, thanks for coming on. This was great. We'll throw up the link to your group in the show notes below. And it was a pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot for having me. Super happy to be the first Canadian dealer on the podcast.
We finally did it. Car Dealership Guy News is live and ready to serve the car industry. We're not a traditional news outlet, and I'm not a journalist, but I believe the market deserves concise and unbiased car industry news presented in clear, straightforward English. From the latest stories in automotive to CDG podcast summaries, dealership best practices, and even consumer deals, we're going to offer it all. And the best part? In the classic CDG spirit, everything's 100% free for you. Check it out at cdg.news. That's cdg.news, and please give us feedback. Tell us what else you want. Rip us apart. We're not scared. We just want to provide value. Again, visit cdg.news or click the link in the show notes below.
All right. Hope you enjoyed that episode. Please give the podcast a rating, consider subscribing to the show, and check the show notes for links to what we talked about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time.